Welcome back, students. We are studying History Chapter 3, Class 10, Nationalism in India. This is the fifth video, and this video has been divided into two parts. Otherwise, it would have become too long. So, in the first part, we'll see the non-cooperation movement, how it was organized, how it was planned, how it was executed, and the result of it. And the part 2, we'll see how the different social groups reacted differently to this movement. So, first, let's come to the movement. In the previous video, we have studied about the Rowlatt Act and how terribly it failed, and Gandhiji learned some lessons from this. So Gandhiji, what he learned, wanted to correct here. So what Gandhiji focused here, Gandhiji wanted to unite two communities, major communities in India, that is Hindus and Muslims. And the Khilafat movement, which was organized and planned by, led by Ali brothers, Muhammad Ali and Shaukat Ali, if they joined Gandhiji's movement, Gandhiji's purpose would have fulfilled. So Ali brothers approached Gandhiji. Gandhiji accepted their proposal, and Gandhiji planned a combined movement, a new movement, which would be Gandhiji's movement, of which non-Khilafat movement would be a part of it. So finally, in December 1920, Gandhiji convinced the Indian National Congress in the Nagpur session to launch a new movement which would be combined, a non-cooperation movement which would be combined with the Khilafat movement. So how this decision came, I straight away told you what happened in December 1920 at the Nagpur session of the Indian National Congress. But convincing the Indian National Congress was not that easy. How all this happened, let us see step by step. So first of all, why non-cooperation was needed? Gandhiji published his book. The name of that book was Hind Swaraj, which was published in 1919. And in that book, Gandhiji has given his full theory of non-cooperation. He explained that the Britishers are able to rule India just because the Indians are cooperating with the Britishers. If the Indian stop cooperation with the Britishers, the British government, the British rule will collapse just within a year. सिर्फ एक साल में अंग्रेज साम्राज्य भारत में खत्म हो जाएगा if the Indians stop cooperating with them. If the Indian boycott them, this kingdom will collapse. So Gandhiji prepared three stages movement. Now non-cooperation movement would be unfold in the three stages, and these three stages were planned so meticulously that would include maybe the entire country in this movement. Let us see what were those three stages. Stage 1 was surrender of degrees and titles awarded by the Britishers. So those Indian people who served the Britishers, for example, we can say Rabindranath Tagore, he wrote a song, Jana Jana Mana Adhinayaka Jai, and some other people were also there. So Britishers offered degrees and titles and awards to some Indians who have served the British Empire. And such titles were, some Indians were given the title of Rai Bahadur, some were given the title of Sir, some were given the knighthood Sir. So all these titles were given to the Indians, and those Indians who received these titles were the celebrated Indians. They are the, we can say that, celebrities of that time. And Gandhiji said that in the stage 1, all the celebrities, political celebrities or celebrities from the field of literature or from any field, they are known people, and if they surrender their degrees and titles, it will make the headlines in the newspapers. People in the country will read about this, and they will come to know what is happening in the country, why these big and great people are protesting, why are they surrendering their titles, and that will create willingness to know what was happening. That will create curiosity among the people, and when the people will learn that it is a part of a struggle against the British, common people will also be ready to participate. And whenever people will be ready to participate, then will unfold the second stage that common people would do. And what would have been the second stage? Second stage would be of boycott. Boycott of what? All these things: civil services, army, police, court and legislative councils, schools, foreign goods, and some other things were also there. But these things are mentioned in the textbook. So what is the meaning of the boycott? Boycott means all those Indians who are employed in the services, providing the services to the government. By running all those services, all those people would resign from the jobs and they stop doing the work. That's one way. And second way, the Indians who are using those services will also stop using those services. For example, I'll take the example of schools. There are some teachers, principals who were Indians appointed as the teachers and principals. Those teachers, principals should resign from their jobs, and those Indian children who are going to schools and colleges, they also stop going to schools and colleges, rather prefer the Indian alternatives. Foreign clothes. This is how the boycott second stage would work. And as the practice in the past, the government become violent. If Indians do something against the British government, the government becomes violent. And to control the violence, there was a third stage, which was inactive. Inactive means that was the proposed stage, or we can call it a conditional stage. If the Britishers react violently to the first and the second stage, then only the third stage would become active, and that would have been ever more terrible than the first two stages. So it is a measure to keep the government under control so that there should not be any violence, and there was no violence. That also happened. So what was the third stage? If the Britishers practice repressive measures, if the Britishers try to suppress the Indian movement, then Indian will follow full civil disobedience. That was conditional, and there was the need did not arise to execute this stage. The third stage was not executed. So understood three stages. Now let's move the impact of this. What was the impact of this? Impact we'll see later. First we'll see the organization. Gandhiji and Chowkat Ali brothers were convinced that this movement would have a great result. So these people tried to convince the whole country and the Congress also. Gandhiji tried to convince the Congress, but meanwhile, Shaukat Ali and Mohandas Karamchand Gandhiji traveled throughout the country and tried to convince the people this movement will be launched. The people were supposed to support them, and of course Gandhiji got good support from the people. Then there was a big challenge left to convince the Indian National Congress to launch one such movement. And when the proposal was presented before the Indian National Congress, the Congress had two opinions. One opinion was, yes, we should support the movement. They were the supporters. They believed that we should carry on movement after movement after movement so that pressure would be created on the government. But there was another opinion too, reluctant. They did not want to participate. They thought that we should not practice this. Otherwise, if we practice, we'll have to boycott the elections, provincial elections that were proposed in November 1920. And some people of the Congress did not want to boycott those elections. And they also believed that if we do any kind of movement, British will do the repressive measures and the violence will start, and again Gandhiji will withdraw the movement. So there was two opinions and there was a tussle. There was a big tussle went in the Congress, and especially at the Calcutta session that was held in September 1920. Calcutta session, September 1920, Congress was on the verge of partition. The differences of opinion were so wide that it seems that the Congress would be divided into two parts. Bifurcation of Congress was there. So the movement was, the session was called off, and next session was called in again December. December 19. Nagpur session was called on December 1920, and between this, during these 3 months, both the parties tried to convince others with their opinion, and finally supporters were able to convince others, and January 1920, non-cooperation in Khilafat movement was launched. So remember, in which session it was Congress decided that the movement would be launched? It was decided in Nagpur session of Indian National Congress that was held in December 1920. So here it was decided, and the movement was launched on January 1921. So what was the public response to this movement? There was good response from the urban sides, cities. There was a tremendous, overwhelming response. Thousands of students left the government schools and colleges. Don't think that there is another need for this movement. So also you want to enjoy the holidays. Students left the schools. So teachers and headmasters too resigned from their jobs. Even lawyers stopped going to courts. And council elections were also boycotted. Nobody participated in council election, except of course there was one political party in Madras. The name of that party was Justice Party. You can read this Wikipedia screenshot here about this party. This party was a non-Brahmin party. It was against the Brahmin people. We won't go much detail into that. this party participated in the election, it means this party did not participate in the non-cooperation movement. Rest everything, urban areas, the movement was going well. Now, what impact did this movement have on the British economy? Terrible, devastating impact the movement had on the British economy. Foreign goods were boycotted. As the Indians boycotted the foreign goods, we were not buying their clothes, we were not buying their footwear, we were not buying their food items. Even the liquor shops, sharab ki dukane also picketed. Picketed means women especially sat in front of the liquor shops. Sharab ki dukanon ke samne aurtein aise baith ke that they obstructed the entry into the shop, so that no one should enter the liquor shops. There was also picketed. Foreign cloth was burned in huge bonfires. You can see this image taken from a popular Bollywood movie based on Gandhiji, Gandhi by Attenborough. That's a movie. So this everywhere, this such kind of scenes were there in India. And impact on of the British revenue, yes, you can see the import of value of imported cloth reduced to almost 50%. Earlier it was, before the moment it was 102 crores. Now it remained only to 57 crore in this year. This is how decline in the revenue we can understand. The merchants and traders also, the Indian traders, Indian Vyapari also refused to trade in goods that were made in England or that was imported from England. And then that gave boost to the Indian textile industry. People stopped using the foreign cloth and they were demanding the cloth which was manufactured in India. So again, so many textile mills rose up in India. Handloom business also increased. So we not only destroyed the British economy, we also boosted the economy with this movement. So you can understand now you can understand that what a huge potential the non-cooperation movement had if it was practiced up to the mark, as it was totally planned. Possibly we would have got freedom. This slide was missed earlier, so it is a later interpolation. You may face some disturbance while the slide sudden jump. Okay, so let us see what was the output of the non-cooperation movement. We saw that people boycotted, burning of the foreign cloth, all this happened. But gradually the movement died a natural death. Why the movement died the natural death? Because this was the first of the national level movement by the Congress, and of course whatever is done the first time, we may commit mistakes. So there were some errors in this movement too. First mistake was that, it should not be called a mistake, but unfortunate thing, bad luck. We have stopped using the cloth which was made in English mills in England. Whatever fabric they produced, that was sent to India, and we decided not to use that. So rather we chose the Indian fabric, khadi. Khadi is a kind of Indian fabric. Still people use it. Even the politicians use it more, but even common people too use it. So the problem was khadi was that it was an expensive fabric, and especially when it was compared to the fabric cloth which was made in mill in England, it was very expensive. Apart from that, the khadi is not durable. You cannot wash it 10-20 times and still you can use it. It is not as strong as cotton or other fabric. So Indian people were already poor, they cannot buy the clothes again and again and again. Plus whatever was the price, it was difficult for the Indian to pay. So for a long time Indians could not continue boycotting the foreign cloth because of their economic inability. There was another problem, problem number 2. These two are problem number 1, we'll call them 1. This is problem number 2. We have decided to boycott the British institutions. We decided to boycott their courts. We decided to boycott their schools. But whatever will be boycott, do we have the Indian alternatives? For example, we want our children to study and we won't be sending our children to British schools. But were there Indian schools available? If there were some issues between some Indian persons, two Indian people, men or women have some issues, they now would not go to the British court. But then where would they go to solve the problem? There was no alternatives. So Indians could not remain away, they could not refrain long from the British services for a long time. And gradually people started to trickle down of the movement. धीरे धीरे लोग movement से निकलने लगे और वापस they again came back to use the British services. Okay. That's it, the slide which I have forgotten to input. It's a later interpolation. Now let's move on. Now we come to the end of this video. Our next topic will be how the different social groups responded differently to this non-cooperation movement. See you in the next video. Thank you so much.